And conversation continues apace here with our panelists. I'm holding court with Dr. Ateno Omolo, who is a member of parliament from Rarieda. Also, we have Herman Manyora with us, who's a lecturer at the University of Nairobi. Aaron Chiot, Senator Kiricho, and also Jacob Medio, who is a former member of parliament from GEM, and Senator Kanu Mwatangi from Kiambu as well. Let's circle back with you, Dr. Ateno Omolo. If at all we do not have Miguna presented in court today, then what?
Well, the fact that we can even debate that tells you exactly where we are. And it's quite telling. Allow me to say this. Listening to Senator Chiriot and Senator Matangi, it's quite telling how hard and vigorous they defend the regime, the Jubilee regime. And when they are confronted with hard facts where, as honest legislators, they should concede those are excesses of the Constitution, then they run away and say, I'm just a senator. I am not the Inspector General. I am not this. That is escapism at its worst. There is no choice but to present Miguna in court today.
Alive or dead?
Alive or dead or in whatever status. Because that is the last, where we are, this regime has muzzled virtually every independent state and non-state actor. And the only element that is still holding on is the judiciary. If we succeed in muzzling the judiciary, then the Constitution is completely buried and sealed. We must not allow that. And Dibal, allow me to say this. On a week that is so eventful, you should not allow my friend Senator Matangi to take all of 4 or 5 minutes bemoaning a statement by Jacob Medio when there are so many transgressions of the Constitution. This week alone,
yes,
we have a situation where the Uhuru Kenyatta presented a list of cabinet secretaries that is not in accordance with the Constitution, does not meet the regional balance, does not meet the gender requirements, creates unlawfully the position of assistant minister. This week alone, we have a situation where the Minister for Internal Security proscribes essentially a political party as an unlawful organization. This week alone, we have a situation where the media is shut down, contrary to Article 34 that is very clear. If you think any media house is airing anything that is unlawful,
yes,
there's Article 34 goes ahead to prescribe what the media should observe. And then it's the duty of the state to go to court or some other independent tribunal and ask that that media be stopped or be shut down and must state the reasons. They didn't do that. Article 24 is clear, Article 34 is clear, and it is particularly annoying what then they said. They said that this media house and the others were airing what was happening. Now, the media is like your spectacles. If you don't like what you're seeing through your spectacles, you don't break them. Either you deal with what you are seeing, or if you don't want to see it, close your eyes. If they did not want to see the massive crowd, the millions of people who gathered at Uhuru Park, then they should not have seen it. You don't close the media, because the meeting happened anyway. This week alone, we have now established a precedent that you can arrest people and hold them without seeing the advocate. I went to see TJ Kajwang as an advocate. It so happened that it was my birthday. I had so much tear gas. I think at least 15 tear gas cannons are thrown at me alone as an advocate and a member of parliament. You know, this week alone, we have now established that the state can arrest you, can run away with you to whatever they want and hold you incommunicado despite court orders. And the culmination is the disobedience of the court orders. And then you've just shown that even civil society, who are lawfully saying we can't go that way, just to keep it all, are also tear-gassed. If we get to the situation where the state cannot obey court orders, then the citizens will take it in their hands to apply what they believe is the law. The loser can only be the state and all of us. And that's why there is no choice but to bring Miguna to court this morning.
All right. Yeah, let's hear from Aaron Chirio.
Well, you know, Dibal, the reason we have this constitution is because it's a negotiated document. And it is a document that binds all of us, because it envisions a time where we will all disagree and not hold the same view. When we get to such a time, the common thinking and the rational thing to do all over the world is to refer back to this constitution. I've listened to Dr. Otiende very well and say that as good members of parliament, we should be able to make concessions where we are hit by hard facts. I'd wish he'd begun by following the same rule that he's setting himself, by advising NASA, who are the principal players in all this problem that we are facing today, that what they are doing, what they are committing is an illegality. It is an illegality because, you know, Dibal, individuals are temporary, but this constitution is permanent. The reason why we decided and we said for every time we conduct an election, the empire has to be an organization that, and we even gave it the name independent to mean that it is not dependent on any person. And we have IBC, we have the judiciary, which are standalone, you know, institutions in this country that we should be able to accept and respect. Unfortunately, NASA has defied the courts, which upheld the election of President Uhuru Kenyatta. NASA has defied IBC, which gave us the results and said President Uhuru Kenyatta has been elected as a president to serve a second term.
Has the IBC also defied the orders from the court as well?
Who?
IBC.
IBC. Yeah. Which orders?
To open
Haven't you? You want to tell me you've fallen victim also to the NASA propaganda that servers have not been opened? My friend Dibal, remember the newspaper. Remember the newspaper that we had in your studio last week, where IBC gave a concrete explanation of what happened in that debate. That server debate is a propaganda by NASA. IBC opened the servers. The only thing they could not agree with NASA is when
Dr. Tene was here.
He's not an IT expert. He does not know what he's saying, because IBC have said, listen,
just a moment. He was a petitioner in that particular case.
Yes.
Okay, give him a chance also to answer if it was answered or it was open or not.
You know, he cannot be entitled to his own facts. You know which side of the divide he plays for. Allow me the time to tell you. IEBC put up a paid advert last week in our local dailies, including the Daily Nation, explaining that situation. And they said the disagreement we have with NASA is when they go ahead and ask us for things we cannot grant. One of which is the passwords to our encryptions. Who in the world will give you that? There's nobody who can give you that, so because why would you have?
Was that an explanation, or was it saying that actually the servers were open?
The servers were opened. The servers were open.
He doesn't seem to agree
on this one. Let me just tell you
the only thing.
Just a moment.
Only on that. Whatever arguments you make, it is not fair to mislead Kenyans. The facts as follows. The order of 8th of August for IBC to open the servers has never been complied with to date, no matter the amount of explanation they give. The elections that was apparently held on 26th, which in our view is illegitimate, they were very quick to open the servers. And those ones are available to anyone. The results that were in the servers of 8th of August are not available even to you now.
I'm telling you, Dibal, and this is a debate that you can go on and on for a very long time. This is a NASA propaganda that the servers were never open.
All right, I'll do my fact checking then. Of course, we shall discuss that much later in the program.
But you see, now you interrupted me before concluding.
Okay, I'm sorry, continue.
A time has come, Dibal, where we must ask ourselves, because I was making the argument that it is NASA who began all this circus by not respecting this constitution, and therefore forced the government into a very difficult corner, because at the end of the day, you must protect the citizens of a country. You know, for a long time we've been compared, and we've been told that Tanzania is fast catching up with us, Ethiopia are moving fast and way ahead, Rwanda is pacing up down on us as a country. And the only reason that they're able to do this is because they've been able to cut down on the unnecessary politics. Which other self-respecting country will politic for a whole year and still want to continue with the same vigor and expect to develop? You know, a time has come where certain tough decisions must be made. When you read the history of the nations that have succeeded in the world, from the Singapores, even the great United States of America, before they could get to where they are, certain difficult decisions had to be made. Unfortunately, NASA has forced this government to make some of these very difficult decisions that we have to observe. Let me ask you, Dibal, in which country would you go ahead and beam what was about to be beamed at Uhuru Park on that Tuesday the 30th? It is equivalent to beaming a Ku Klux Klan rally. Nobody will do that because these people are committing an illegality. And because you are media, you are not applying your mind and telling, you need to call the bluffs of these people and tell them that this is not right what you're doing. Where in this constitution does it say that if you're not satisfied with the results of IBC, you go ahead and declare yourself a
Let
president?
me give Haman Manyora a chance as well to weigh in on that.
I think the bar, my friend Senator Cheriot, seems to belong the school of thought that argues that we have too much democracy in this country, that too much of this space, freedom is killing us. Cheriot, I invite you to abandon that kind of thinking. You see, you say you are talking about the constitution, and in the same breath, you are praising countries that have chose to do things in a different way. Ethiopia does not make any excuses about it. You see what I'm talking about? There are dictatorships that have succeeded in this world, beginning with Stalin. In the First World War, Russia was fighting barefooted, on barefoot, without shoes. You know, with the winter of Europe, you know. 4 years later, because of courtesy of the dictatorship of Stalin, it was a superpower. So, Fidel Castro. We know all these things, that sometimes a benevolent dictator leads a revolution that changes society. You are talking of Singapore and so forth. But for Kenyans, I think we have chosen a different path. And this is the path of democracy, the path of constitutionalism. We must then stick to that. But if at some point you feel the other path is good, you have to convince Kenyans to abandon the constitution and allow a dictator to take charge. They have succeeded in many places. I can count up to 20.
You've never called out NASA's illegalities.
No, listen.
What is constitution about what they're doing?
Listen, you're not getting what I'm saying. The problem we have in this country, I've said it time without end on this bench, is that the elections of 2017 were disputed beyond the normal dispute of an election. And as a country, going forward, I have argued, the main players would need to sit down and save us from imminent trouble. The signs of the trouble are all around us.
That is where we go wrong.
No, I'm saying, I am not saying anything that is really challengeable. All I'm saying, Cheriot, is we have to admit there's a problem. We start there. Once we admit as a country, if there are no problem, Cheriot, my friend, if there was no problem in this country, now all these things we are discussing here, why are we discussing?
Are you advocating that we step outside of this constitution, Haman Manyora, and solve the problems in the way you're prescribing?
Sometimes it's good to listen. You know,
but I'm listening to you, and all you're saying is that they need to be a discussion. A discussion held where? The discussion was held on the 26th.
Can you just give him his head also to just finish his statement? Then we'll give you a chance.
Listening is a virtue. This country belongs to all of us. What I'm saying is, are you wanting to pretend there's no problem in this country? There is a problem. The problem arises out of the elections we had last year. As a people, the beginning point is to admit there's a problem. Then we set out, using our leaders, to sort out that problem. And it means people sitting down, having admitted there's a problem, we look for means and way of solving the problem. All of us as Kenyans. You get what I'm saying? It is as simple as that. If we fail to do that and then NASA thinks they can use their tactics outside the constitution, like you are saying, including swearing in Raila, including boycotts and demonstrations and all manner of other things. And then the government, on the other hand, thinks they will arrest the Migunas, they will shut down television station. We are heading to bad territory. This is as simple as that.
Thank you.
Both sides ought to realize this is our country. There is a problem. Okay. Let's sit down and sort it out.
All right. So we have a problem. No. And it seems, of course, we're caught up in this tangled knot. It's like a Gordian knot. Yes. Both from the Jubilee side and both from NASA side, we have a divided country as well. There's a Gordian knot. The question is, who will actually try and untie this Gordian knot or cut it, as Alexander the Great did it, right?
I will begin by answering you directly. Uhuru, pick up your call and call Raila. Your phone and call Raila. Period. There's no other solution. Number two, Senator Cheriot is saying...
Call him and say what?
Let's talk about our country.
talk or help him to accept the results.
But
of the
that
election?
particular, yeah, but that, no.
You know, there's
Just a
something
moment.
interesting, Dibale.
But that-
we have to
that-
redirect
that-
our show. Let me just say this.
That particular gesture has come from the president himself.
No, let me just say this. Let me just say this. First of all, my young brother here has learned the Wamatangi way is the wrong way. So he can't be talking over people. You give him his time, then he shuts up the way all of us are doing.
Okay.
That is how you do a good show. All of us wake up very early in the morning just to show up here. Because we think we want to be part of, this is part of our developing our country.
Okay,
It's good always to listen to others.
accepted.
Pick up your phone, call, and if the call is not answered, pick up your phone and call, so that this country must be directed in the right direction. We have been here before. You know, Senator Cheriot says that the guiding document in our country is the Constitution, and when we are in a crisis, we go back to it. I said I was consulting my good lawyer, Utinde Amolo. Article 34(2) says this, and I want to read it. The state shall not exercise control over or interfere with any person engaged in broadcasting, production, or circulation of any publication or dissemination of information by any medium. So he says this is the document that we go back to. We are back to it. Do you respect just that article alone? I mean, what are you telling Kenyans? Kenyans are not so silly or stupid, Debal, as to just watch the state go rogue. Now, let me tell something, and I want to address just Kenyans and Wamatangi. Do you know the state of Matiba? What the police did to Ken Matiba or Charles Robia? Matiba, who could have been the president of Kenya, was tortured by the police and is still on his deathbed. You know, we are not talking about ordinary issues. Matangi, it happened. It will happen again. It is happening now. What is happening to Miguna is what happened to Matiba. We cannot sit back as responsible citizens and just come here and make noise. You know, he talks about IBC. Otiende has said they did not obey the court order. But look at this. In the process, Musando is dead. These are real things. I mean, I would be such a coward not to come here and not highlight where we are as a people. We as Kenyans, we have responsibility. What is the way out of this predicament? Prof says, the best thing, let us talk our way out of it. There's no other way. This is our country and nobody is going nowhere. In fact, I do not think this state even manufactures the tear gas they use on us. Mm-hmm. We don't even have the ability. We don't even manufacture a toothpick, for that matter. We are a net importer. So when you threaten us with tear gas, you will run out. And you can't kill 40 million people with bullets. It's not possible. And nobody will be scared. What we are saying, let the leadership of this country, please, stop the mediocrity. Let us do what responsible leaders do. And I think we can do this. Kibaki and Raila did it in 2007 when Raila's votes were stolen. Uhuru can also do it because the circumstances are not different.
All right. Okay, let's say from Kimani Wamatangi, do you agree with what Jaco is saying, that the same treatment that Matiba got is what now also Miguna is getting? First of all, we do know about the circumstances under which also it is in the public domain that Matiba was on, he was denied medication, and of course that led to some other complication like stroke, and that adversely affected him as well. Reports also, they've been on the fore right now that yes, that Miguna was denied his medication as well. He's asthmatic, and he was not even given an inhaler. Right now we do not know where he is. Of course, we were given to understand he was taken to a Lari police station where it's very cold, given now his condition as well. Don't you think that can adversely affect him as well? So the question is, will he return in mint condition like he went in to those prison cells?
Dibal, why don't I answer the question? But let me first capture two issues that were passed. So that one, I have a right of input on some of the comments made by my colleagues because they're important. First, remember Dibal, there was a time, I believe, in my conviction that I made a very arguable case here, a serious one, on the danger that we are about to get into if we allow our nation, the state, to be captured by politicians and political interests. And I made a case here that day, and we had a very, very big argument. And now, even what makes it even more complicated is that the same actors, the intendees of that capture, now have cocktailed their mission by adding serious hypocrisy, a lot of hypocrisy, such that now, unless, and they like quoting, "we the people." But I say, really, unless the people of this country determine that enough is enough, and they will not let politicians run and ruin their lives. I'll say just a few things and why. One, let me first discount a point that was made by Otiende Amolo, that government has taken on prescribing legitimate political parties. NRM is not a political party. And political parties in Kenya are not led by generals. And when somebody says that this is, insinuated armed wing of this political party, and it is led by general, you know the mindset you introduce into Kenyans: violence, chaos, anarchy, murder, annihilation. That is what you're saying to Kenyans when you introduce the theme of Konyi into our Kenyan politics, and you can't run away from that. Dr. Otiende Amolo says that this week alone we have witnessed several cases or occurrences that have not been seen in the past. It is true. Mm-hmm. Because since almost 35 years ago, we have not witnessed any other attempt to overthrow a legitimate government, a coup. That was attempted last week by people posturing that they have gone for a swearing-in ceremony when they know. And the worst bit, and that is why I introduced that it is unless we, the people of this country, refuse to go that way, is because of this, that they are doing it knowingly, intentionally. It is not a coincidence. It is a plan. It's a scheme. Ask me why. I'll tell you. You see, that so-called swearing-in ceremony, which was indeed an attempt, it was an attempt to take over the control and reins of a country which has gone through an election and legitimately had that election concluded by the procedures that are provided for by our constitution. Remember that swearing in was supposed to be attended by their principals, including the core principal who was supposed to be sworn in as a vice president. But have you asked or stopped to ask yourself why did they not attend? Why only one? And that matter, we've avoided it in this debate. Why did Musalia Mudavadi refuse to go? Why did Moses Wetangula refuse to go? Why did Kalonzo Musyoka not go for the swearing in? It is because they knew that the act that is just about to be perpetrated, that what is supposed to be done there, and ignore the window dressing and the rearrangement of the musical chairs that was happening after. The reasons why they could not go is because they knew that the event, the so-called crowning, was an illegality, that it was against written law in this country, in our constitution, and that it amounts to treason. And that is why they could not go. And Dibala, I want to jog your memory. When that event was about to go on, I remember NTV, one of your journalists, interviewing Kalonzo outside his home. And he was asked a direct question: are you going to go? He said, no, let's not discuss that now. There are so many things happening. And the senator for Vihiga, Senator Haneri, has been twice in the press this week saying, actually, chiding and challenging his own political leaders there. Why did you not go? You know what he said? He said that they were cowards, that they refused to go because they knew that they were going to be arrested. And when you say you know you're going to be arrested, it's because you know you're about to commit an illegality. Now, Haman Manyora, you don't speak for me. Now, so let me say this. What is happening right now, and this is what we have to call, is that we have allowed people to intentionally drive this country down where you're finding us going to. And unless we urge and say that leaders, and especially political leaders, must take political responsibility for what they are doing.
Thank you.
And I want to finalize by telling Haman Manyora what he was trying to bring about here as a decorated thought or philosophy, that this country is going to continue to have a problem unless there's a discussion and unless there is no disagreement, there's no pull and push about what the results of the election were.
Thank you.
We have a provided for process of determining the result of an election.
Thank
that
you.
was done.
We're right.
And none other than the Chief Justice
All right, thank you.
the
All right,
president.
we have callers hanging on the line. Thank you.
So we cannot argue that there's going to be
Thank you.
a lacuna
10 minutes of
All right,
or
thank
a
you.
disagreement.
We have callers who are hanging on the line. We would love to hear also from our callers as well. Good morning. Hello, good morning. Right, can you just speak up? You're so faint, or is it my speaker inside here? Kennedy from Nairobi, good morning.
Yeah, morning to you.
Yeah, we can hear you now. You have a question or a contribution, briefly?
Yeah, I have a comment and a contribution.
Yeah, well, let's just take a question, please.
Yeah, thank you. I've seen the brothers who are in the studio on the panel, they are speaking that the servers were open, and we were here when everything was done, and even the court proceedings. So any Kenyan that was there during the court proceedings was aware of what was happening. So you cannot cheat us that the servers were open. We are always aware of what's happening. Second thing, who is going to fund us our money back that we subscribed with the credit on our decoders? We paid for the decoder, set box, they said that we need to pay, and we paid.
All right, thank you, Kennedy. A good question also. We have another caller hanging on the line. Daniel, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning to you. You have a question or a contribution, Daniel?
I have a contribution and then a question.
Let's take the contribution or a question. Choose one.
My contribution, Debal,
Yes.
is that there is a confusion from every side.
Yeah.
One is that I would really ask, the characteristics of a failed state, One is the erosion of the institutions, where the government muzzle every institution, political and judiciary and all this. We are having three components of power in this country that are both autonomous and both independent.
Yes.
My worry is when the executive exacts an order, that then the judiciary cannot go. These are the things that we need to complain about. Having brilliant minds like Senator Matangi and Aaron Cheriot, and who actually cannot give us straight answers as to why judiciary is being muzzled by the executive. And you go about not giving us straight explanations. There are simple questions that we Kenyans we need to be answered to, and they cannot answer that. NRM, is it a registered lobby group or is it a political movement? Simple questions that Kenyans need an answer to. And again, the power of the media, it's constitutional in terms that media has an executive authority to inform and educate the public. Any government who muzzles the media shows a direction of a failed state. And these are Kenyans need to tell the leaders seated there.
Thank you.
The country is headed to the dogs. Nobody is speaking about it.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you. All right, we have Sila as well, hanging on the line from Larry. Good morning, Sila.
Good morning, Debala. How are you doing?
I'm very well. How is Larry this morning? Numbingly cold?
A little bit of cold.
All right. Okay.
Okay.
You have a question? Yes.
Yes. First of all, I wish there could be a lady in that panel because of the two-child gender rule.
Thank you.
Anyway, let me start by saying in 2015, His Excellency the President defied a court order when a court gave a direction that I think there was a ship carrying, I think, drugs that was not supposed to be destroyed. But His Excellency went ahead and destroyed the ship, defying a court order. So, how do you expect me, a common mwananchi, to obey the constitution, to obey the law, if the government itself cannot obey court order? Omtata went to court, an order was issued. TVs were not opened even after the order was issued, right? Miguna's lawyers were in court. Orders was issued twice. The state did not obey those orders. First to release him on bail, then for him to appear in court yesterday at around 2 p.m., I believe 2:32 p.m. You know, the problem we have in this country is that we have a president who is legally elected but not legitimately, lacks legitimacy. That's why on 30th, we saw the Right Honorable former Prime Minister being surrounded by about 700,000 people at Uhuru Park, 700,000 citizens. The same day in the evening, we saw His Excellency the President being surrounded by military at the airport when he was coming from, I believe it was Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. So this surrounded by military, the other person is surrounded by no common mwananchi. So what's the solution? Because Dibal, you ask a very good question. Alexander the Great blinked first. Who is supposed to blink first? Jacob Mediwo. The solution is not for Uhuru to call Raila. The solution is for this government to resign.
Right. All right. I think you've... all right. We'll continue with those discussions. Probing questions being asked there by Daniel Kibra as well. From Kibra, we have Silas as well. Good comments from him as well. And the first caller, I can't remember his name. Kennedy as well. Thank you. So maybe we can weigh in on that. First of all, I think he raises a good question, which was on my mind to ask as well. NRM, is it a registered movement?
Okay, let me answer that. But before I come to that, there's Kennedy asked the question, who will refund the money they paid for the decoder and all? I think there's only one point to be made, which sometimes is lost. Every time government acts so recklessly, as at now, you saw Wanjigi's house, you saw Miguna's house, they forget that once the debts settle, people will sue. And the amount of money that the courts will award these individuals runs into hundreds of millions. They come back to the very taxpayers. That's why those holding those positions are reckless, because it will not visit them. Now that's recklessness in government. The second question about are we a failed state? I would say, the question by Daniel, we are very nearly there. In my assessment, and we can have this discussion, the only element that is still preventing us from being a completely failed state are some sections of the judiciary. Some sections. Not even all, but some. Mm-hmm. It's the last bastion. All other institutions have been enveloped into this quagmire. The question of NRM and the military wing. Let me start by reminding Senator Matangi, we were here, you remember, when I asked him about the occasion which you showed, when he was wearing the jungle attire and the red beret. And at that time, the only section that was dressed in that manner was the Jubilee wing. And I made the point that once you start militarizing politics, you will invite the opposite reaction. It is that opposite reaction that has come. So the first question you should ask is that if then you should proscribe those within the NASA coalition who are ascribing to titles like general, dressed in military fatigue, why are you not prescribing those in Jubilee, the red berets? And we saw them. So it's not about what you are prescribing. It is about unfair treatment. It's about trying to intimidate a section. NRM, as already explained, was never and can never be registered. It is a political movement. It's an ideology. You do not register an ideology, and therefore you don't even become a member. So even when you proscribe RMM and then you're charging some people with being members, I mean, where will you even get that list of membership? Because it will never be registered. It's an idea.
All right, so
completely.
Okay, just
to continue.
Just jog my memory.
Yes.
So what was the Ministry of Interior? We saw a gazettement.
Yes.
Was it deregistering NRM? Because I think that was the notion.
It was proscribing.
Proscribing.
You don't proscribe an idea until somebody has formed an organization like the Mungikis and they take oath. then you can say now you belong to Mungiki, it's proscribed. You can't say, if I say I'm a Marxist or a leftist, how can you proscribe that? You know, this is a political idea. It's an idea of resisting tyranny or the erosion of the democracy. You can't proscribe that. You don't even become a member. It's just an ideology. Like Senator Cheruiyot and Senator Matangi, you think it's okay to bury the constitution, then ideologically, you cannot be part of that movement. So you can't be charged either way. That's the whole thing that they're missing.
But
here.
Al-Shabaab is also, a group that subscribes to an ideology.
But that's an organized group. They have their own code. They have their own military training. They do things that are unlawful and they proudly claim to be it. What has NRM done? You know? So if Miguna says he's a general, so what? There are many people who call themselves professors, doctors, bishops. Some even say they are archbishops. So what? It's neither here nor there. You don't solve a political problem that is based on an ideological difference by trying to prescribe the opposite of your thinking. Secondly, it is important to state this. And Senator Cheruiyot can say all that he wants. At the end of the day, the fact remains that the elections that were held on 8th of August, despite the orders of the Supreme Court, the IBC never opened its servers and has never shared the results. If they did, nothing would have been easier than when NASA presented its results that it accessed from those very servers. They would have come and said, this set is completely bogus. Here is the true set. And if you want to verify, here, go ahead and access.
All right,
they can't do that. Lastly, maybe just two quick ones. It is important to know that everything the NASA political wing has done, and that can be demonstrated, has always been done within the Constitution. Whether it's the right of assembly and petitions against the IBC commissioners, whether it's the People's Assembly and all that. And if you think it is not, there are only two ways usually of dealing with it. Either you consider lawful, legitimate criminal charges, or you challenge it in court. Right now as we speak, the Attorney General challenged the idea of the People's Assembly. The court is yet to make a decision. Who is Jubilee to decide that the court will decide that the People's Assembly is unlawful when the Attorney General, their own Attorney General, is in court awaiting a decision? I think the last bit is that I think that where we are is that we are at a stalemate and we are adding insult to injury. You do small things like elected leaders like me. You decide that now you withdraw the security, thinking you're punishing the person. You decide that you're withdrawing firearm licenses. You consider, withdrawing passport. So instead of solving the situation, you radicalize even the moderates who are within those groupings. If there's one thing history has shown us, in South Africa, for example, when ANC was fighting apartheid, there were the legitimate legal voices like Nelson Mandela. But when you then take them and lock them up, then the more radical wings, like the Umsizwe wa Kunte, it's called Umkhonto wa Sizwe, come in. In this very country, when Mau Mau was proscribed and people like Kenyatta were picked and jailed, it did not stop the Mau Maus from continuing with the organization. So what I'm saying is this. When there's a problem, then those who speak legally, reasonably, and legitimately, you engage them. You don't criminalize them and punish them. Because when you do, you merely radicalize the rest of the followers.
All right, thank you. Let's hear from Aaron Cheruiyot.
Well, it's really interesting following through the comments that the listeners and the viewers have called in. And there are certain questions that they've been asking. If, Dr. Otiende, you have been a good follower of the debates that we've been having this year with Miguna, unfortunately is not here today. Let me just say this for the record, that it's my hope that he is brought to court this morning, because much as I do not agree with him, I don't like the person, but his rights must be respected either way. So it's my sincere hope that they get him to court. But having said that, the point that I want to make is, Dr. Otiende, Miguna has told us time without mention that one, he's not a member of NASA. That is accurate. That he's a member of NRM, which in his opinion is a radical and the militant wing of NASA. And all they want to do is that they want to bring down this government. If you see his tweets, many of the time, they are hashtagged by the title, Uhuru must fall. You know, so that fits every definition of what a proscribed organization is. Proscribed organizations are many organizations that try to bring down either governments or institutions and that kind of a thing. So I do agree that it was very much in order for NRM to be proscribed, because we've seen the activities. When you go out and call on people to bring down the portraits of the president and ban them in certain centers and things like that, you're radicalizing and you're inciting, which is an offense to the best of my knowledge. And one thing that I want us to not to miss out on, Debal, is to ask ourselves, if we went out today, let's say we picked up your microphone and the cameras, and we went out and spoke to Kenyans from across all the 47 counties and asked them, what is your most persistent problem that you'd wish to have solved in this country? Let me tell you something that is so shocking. Who is elected president will probably feature at number 100. The top things would be, we want jobs for our children. We want food security. We want a working healthcare system. Those are the things that we should obsess our minds with and seek answers to. Otherwise, what we keep on having here is an elitist debate that doesn't resonate with the masses. That is not what disturbs Kenyans when they wake up each and every morning. Finally, there's something that I still wish to insist on. I want to insist on that on this debate of whether the servers were open or were not open, I feel it is a misinformed debate. It is misinformed because many of the people...
No. I told you that we are going to do a fact check.
But you allowed you allowed Dr. Otiende to comment on it?
Please go ahead.
Yeah. No. We'll actually do a fact check on it. Then we are going to... Because I don't want to be embroiled in that particular debate. Please.
Maybe we can do it next week.
Please.
No problem.
Not
if
today.
that is the case, then
yeah,
let me stay out.
You have another one?
No.
Okay, fine.
I stay out.
Let's say from Muhammad Manyora.
You see, before I talk about what our callers have raised, I wish to inform my friend Senator Cheriot that contrary to his thinking, the common man in the village where he comes from knows the problem in this country, and they are apprehensive. If you take the pulse of this country, sometimes when I say this, people don't understand what I'm saying. If you take the pulse of this country, right in the slums and in the villages and in the towns, among the educated and the not so educated, they are aware there is a problem in the country. And they are apprehensive because Kenyans love peace. Kenyans, even those who have never stepped in school, know what Somalia has gone through. They know what went on in Rwanda. They know what Uganda has gone through. They know, even those you call illiterate, they know there is a problem. They want food. They want shelter. They want all those good things you are talking. But they also know, in the absence of political stability, everything will remain a mirage. They will not get what they are looking for. And this is reflected in what the callers have said. Daniel is talking about independence of institutions. You see, he sees. And those three arms of government ought to be independent for us to survive as a nation. And that ropes in the media as the fourth estate. And that's why it's in the Constitution. The media must be allowed to do their work freely but responsibly. Kennedy has talked about the server issue. And this server issue, as much as my friend...
I am saying we scrap that issue for now, please.
We would not say whether they were open or not.
I'm sorry. I have to button. I've just made it very clear.
Yes.
Let's not gloss. I mean,
I'm not even going into the details.
Please, I don't want even to hear the mention of the servers right now. I think, we shall discuss that much later.
Yes, I'm just saying these are the issues Kenyans are raising. I'm not going into the details of the servers. Do you hear what I'm saying?
Okay.
I'm not even saying the ones of 26th were open and the ones of 8th, there was an explanation. I'm not saying all that.
Okay.
I'm just saying there are issues Kenyans are raising. You see? And then you can see somebody like Sila from Larry. He's talking about government resigning. That shows you, these are some of the issues that are disturbing this country. People are saying there's a failed state. Kenya is not a failed state at all. We are a very functional state. We are far from being a failed state. But see, people are entertaining things that can drive us in that direction. You see, there is a government in office, duly elected, sworn in, and operating legally according to the Constitution. But that doesn't mean the other side doesn't have legitimate concerns. You see what I'm saying? So as a country, back to my friend Senator Matangi, as a country, you can see if you sample what's coming from the people, people know there's a small problem in this country and it can be sorted out. But if we let it to continue, then the country can burn. And there's nothing wrong with us admitting that. And there's nothing wrong, there's nothing demeaning for Uhuru to do what Jacob Midio is saying. As a bigger brother being now the president, to call his junior brother and they sit down and talk about this country.
Thank you. Jacob Midio.
First of all, Raila is not junior to Uhuru.
You didn't get what I'm saying?
No.
I said,
I got you very clear.
as the president.
I did not talk when you were talking.
Yeah.
I didn't talk over you.
But he can clarify what he said. If let him just
Because
clarify.
many people will pick it that way.
No, not junior. Raila
I'm not
is
saying
the
who knows
people's
Raila is
president.
junior. There is no respect in
No,
which
the
Raila
people-
is junior to Uhuru.
No,
He's
no.
older than him. He's a more experienced politician.
Yeah,
he has
yeah,
done more
yeah,
for this country.
yeah.
But I'm
All right,
saying
thank you.
when you are the president, between the person who is not the president, between the person in State House and the person outside State House, who has a greater responsibility?
All right, thank you.
I
Okay,
get
you made a point.
No, you
All right,
First
Jacob
of all,
Midio.
let me say this. The meaning of the word proscribe is to forbid by law. Matiang'i does not make law. Parliament makes laws. Number two, I saw Matiang'i threatening Kenyans. He's my friend. But let me just put that up front. I saw him do two very strange things in the last few months. The first one, I saw him threatening Kenyans with Chinkororo. Miguna is nothing near Chinkororo. Number two, I saw him declare public holidays. All our public holidays are in the Constitution. You know, we cannot be in a state where the state imagines it's okay to break the law, especially when it is being done by overly educated people like Matiang'i. It is not fair to us. In fact, it even tells us there's no reason to go to school. You know, I would expect Matiang'i to tell the state it is wrong to break the law. And so, because he is not listening, we are going to talk to him using the medium that we have, which is this one. But when Meguna says Uhuru must fall, what is wrong in that? I saw the other day Moses Kuria saying, kill Raila. Why wasn't Moses Kuria arrested? And I see Moses Kuria in all his speeches. And if you talk to him, I talked to Moses Kuria many times. When you talk to him, he says that is what makes sense in his village. But he says, kill Raila. I mean, Uhuru is falling. Uhuru is a public office holder. It is nothing personal to him. He is a public servant. And anybody and people have been in those positions. Uhuru Kenyatta is not the first president we have. His father was. You know, let us just do this thing right for our country. When Senator Cheriot says, we need food, we need jobs for our kids, please, those are matters of public policy. Tell us, what are you doing to create jobs? In the Financial Times today, the Business Daily, really.
Yes.
You see that the government yesterday went and signed a 25 billion shilling deal with China to electrify SGR. The original SGR estimates had it was electrified. They're stealing from our people. And we must just resist. We must refuse. You know, when you talk about 25 billion, in a scenario where kids have not even reported to school because they were lied to about school fees. We told Kenyans, we're going to pay your school fees. Secondary school was going to be free from January. Now you're telling us you are borrowing an additional 25 billion. The Euro bonds are not even sorted, Dibal. That is the story. Why is China milking Kenya? Why is China milking Kenya? How are you going to create jobs if you just want to put an electric line using 25 billion?
But this is a modest figure to what we were told that the government was looking for, actually the 40 billion shillings.
Let me just tell you, 40 billion shillings, 25 billion shillings, it is still theft, Dibal.
All right, so, let me just hear from Senator Matangi briefly.
Yes, Debal, just 2 points I would want to make from what my colleagues also have said. First, let me unequivocally state to what Jakoyo has just said, to what was said by my friend Dr. Otiende Amolo, that indeed, yes, it is a good thing and it is important that we obey the Constitution and respect it. But Debal, you cannot choose which sections of the Constitution to obey or respect and ignore others. That's not what you adjudge yourself to be, to be lawful or to be law-abiding. And if, for example, a court in Kitui issued a court order which barred any county assembly, any county government from proceeding or convening or incurring any expenses in the name of those people's assemblies, and that court order is in force, still today you find that NASA proponents in their own counties, including where Dr. Otiende Amolo comes from, continue, and you've not heard a single voice, from them. If lawyers of high repute like James Orengo, like this respectable gentleman here, Dr. Otiende Amolo, and remember, Otiende Amolo told us here many times that he is part of the team that wrote this constitution. So he knows it inside out. And he knows the provisions of that constitution. That this is how you elect a president. This is how you have a government formed legally. These are the instruments of power. And this is the process and how you conclude it. And then, after that process is concluded, they still use excuses. And I don't want to get into that debate that you closed about the servers. But it is pitiful that yet people of that understanding and caliber in knowledge, knowing that process has been constitutionally complied with and closed, would still want to look for small areas to perforate and use as excuses. And that's what I'm saying. It's saddening when you hear that acts like what you saw this week being dismissed by Otiende Amolo as a political idea, that NRM is how do you prescribe a political idea? An idea that says that you can disrespect the Constitution and call a meeting and say, we are swearing in somebody. I mean, that is what you're calling an idea. And if then that is what ideas are, that is a bad idea. It's an idea that is not good for the country.
Right,
to bring this country into chaos. And let me conclude by saying this.
This will be your closing remarks.
Yes.
Thank you.
Absolutely. That
20 seconds.
If we are going to have political stability that will help this country to move forward, then we must have political responsibility from political players. And as long as we let politicians, and especially at that first level, get away the time with the responsibility they're supposed to bear to their electors, then we are going to continue to have problems.
Thank you.
And nobody should be let go, no matter who they are, in any of the actions.
Thank you.
Thank
you, Matagi. 8 on the nose, Dr. Otende. You've got 20 seconds as well to wind up.
Thank you.
Say headline thoughts, please.
Just two very quick comments. One, Cheruiyot and Wamatangi keep saying, and the Jubilee keeps saying that the 30th of, what happened on 30th was inconsequential. That the hundreds of thousands, about 1 million, 1.5 million, if not 2 million, that attended were all inconsequential. Then why the overreaction? Why the overreaction in terms of shutting the media? Why the overreaction in terms of the assault on the people? It is because they know the truth is otherwise. Secondly, and lastly, I think as a country, we stand on the brink of a catastrophe. And we have the choice of burying our heads in the sand, like my good friends here, and saying there's nothing wrong, we have a president, let's move on, or accepting that rather than plunge, let us take a step back.
Thank you.
And make the country.
Thank you. Herman Manyora, 20 seconds.
I need only 10 seconds.
Thank you.
The opposition is doing things that can destroy this country. Top of them is the Raila swearing. The government, on the other hand, is doing things, playing around with the Constitution, arresting people. Top of which, these arrests, the unfortunate incidents surrounding the arrest of Miguna Miguna Manyora has said this and he wants to repeat it now. Stop these games as the people we have entrusted with the leadership on both sides. You don't need to be in State House for you to be my leader.
Thank
Raila and Uhuru are our leaders. They should stop this. This is a fragile country. We have a fragile economy.
10 seconds.
It cannot withstand upheavals.
Thank you.
Let's stop the games. Let's sit down and talk.
Aaron Cheriot, please.
Just
20
a quick
seconds.
point out. The sick joke that is the results that were released by NASA, purportedly showing the results from August 8th. Just something to point out, that the national turnout for those results is 97%. Where in the world does that happen? That tells you how unfortunate and that joke has been taken too far. It has been proved here this morning, Dibal, that both sides of the political divide have obeyed court orders times without end. It's time that as a country, we sober up, we respect. When you lose an election, it is not an emergency.
Thank you.
Raila Odinga, accept the results.
20 seconds are done. Lastly, Jacomedio.
It's a failed state. Let me tell Professor Amanyora, a failed state. The sooner we begin the talks, the better, so that we can redirect our country. And when you say, when you lose elections, you accept, yes. But when you steal elections, we will never accept.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. And of course, I want to thank you, Kennedy, Daniel, and Sila for your calls as well, and a rush of tweets. I can see them, of course, on our Twitter handle. We cannot read all of them, but I want to thank you also for your contribution as well. Thank you very much also for your valued company. I'm Dibala now.